Hello, this is Kieran of Stocks. This is going to be another rambling rant. I think this time on Ghost in the Shell. Oh wow, Ghost in the Shell, a movie classic, and I'm talking about the anime movie, the first anime movie, which is a classic in so many ways. So to begin, my experience with Ghost in the Shell was, I think, when I was 10, I received a magazine. My mum bought me this magazine at a newsagent's when I was living in England, where it had an anime DVD attached to the magazine. It was a very common practice, right? Now, there was lots of different kinds of magazines that did things similar, but I got the magazine with the anime on it. Now, in regards to when I first had it, I remember looking at the DVD and thinking, oh, this is really cool. And it was for 15 plus, right? Back, kind of a bit more of a mature rating, you could say. And I as a 10-year-old kid, that's like, oh, whoa, this isn't for me, whoa. It's like this rebellious kid, kind of like, oh, curious, and you kind of want to watch it type thing. So as soon as I could, or was able to anyway, I watched the anime at home. And my 10-year-old boy mind was just exploded, because it was like violence and anime and robots and tits and all these things. And I was just like, what the fuck? Whoa. It was just a holy grail. Now, I had no idea what was going on. Okay, all I knew was, ooh, action, cool. It was like the caveman brain, yeah. Now, I became in love with anime, and that really pushed me to watch more anime, yeah. I started looking at manga. I started looking at going online, finding that you could watch anime online, and my boy brain, my kid brain exploded, and with the possibilities, and I just kept on watching. And it was back in the day in which one of the more common ways to watch it was through Mega Upload. Now, because it was so mind-blowing, Ghost in the Shell, it led me to finding more anime and finding more manga, because manga is just downstream of anime, really. And one of the main things is that you'd find all these websites online, all these video players online that were all very unique and strange and different. One of them being MySpace, and another being Mega Upload. Now, with regards to Mega Upload, it was in this really annoying thing at the time, where it was for every 1 hour of video you watched, you had to then wait another hour before you could watch more, right? And it was always incredibly annoying when you were watching anime, of course, when you were binge watching it. This was before Netflix, before any of that Crunchyroll, before Crunchyroll became the Crunchyroll we know now. Now, back to Ghost in the Shell. In Ghost of the Shell, I watched it multiple times throughout my life. so far anyway. And every time I've watched it, I've managed to glean more from it, from my own life experience, right? At first, it was just a cool thing that was so different to American cartoons and or Western cartoons, because there was also European stuff. But anyway, it was so different, so new. I became captured by it, and it was amazing. But at first, I just saw it as in the most shallow way anyone could watch something. And that was, oh, cool, the visuals are really cool. And then as I watched it more and more over the years, I've gleaned more and more information about it. And the more things I've learned about the world itself and people and all these other things have allowed me to have an even greater appreciation for Ghost in the Shell. Okay, so Ghost in the Shell is a sci-fi that's on the same vein as cyberpunk.2However, there's a distinct lack of the mega corporation and stuff like that. It is more concerned with the AI aspect of it, of the transhumanist ideas. I'll go into that in the next video. And it's a plot that is about a conspiracy, right? It goes from the initial encounter to the thing and blah, blah, blah until the end. Now, transhumanism is a very key part of the film. The transhumanism is basically going beyond the current human form into, as in evolution, as an evolutionary way, by using quite often technology to facilitate that. One of the key things about this is the whole ghost, which is this idea of a soul being imprinted into a body, a biomechanical body called, in this case, a shell. There are moments of philosophy and trying to understand the world and intelligence and the soul and all these other things throughout the film. You wouldn't, a 10-year-old would not understand any of this at this time. But as I got older, I understood more and more about it, and the deeper appreciation I had for the film. It was very philosophical. There are moments in which Kusanagi questions the idea of her humanity, her soul, who she is, what she is, throughout the thing. And it is the common question now of what makes a person, And there is a moment where there's a gondola on a ship in Hong Kong where Kusanagi spots basically an almost identical body to hers. And there's also this almost grotesque things, changes that people undergo to be a cyborg, right? There's the hands splitting into lots of different fingers, typing things down. And another thing about the transhumanist idea, and it's partly dystopian, is the alteration of memories. There's this guy who is thinking about his daughter and his wife and so on, And he goes for a while showing this picture about and talking about his family, blah, blah, blah. But it turns out that he has never had a family. This is spoiler, I suppose. He never had a family, and that his memories were actually altered by a computer program or an AI. And it questions, are we the summation, is the soul the summation of memories and experiences, or is it something else? And as a more transhumanist piece of media, because it's more transhumanist than it is cyberpunk, the transhumanist piece of media is that there's this grotesqueness of the alterations that you do to your body and how it changes and how it can seem less human. There's like the scene at the end where Kusanagi is trying to like remove the tank, like the spider tank like hatch, and you can see her body. I'll continue. And you see, as she tries to open a hatch, you see this grotesque sort of straining with her biomechanical body. And it's like pushing the muscles to their very limits. And you see that there's like points when they start like looking like they're breaking down, and she gets blown apart in several pieces and she's about to die. And it's this really grotesque sort of animation that really hammers home the more transhumanist ideas of the film. Now, in some ways, the parallels are more modern day anime that parallels the more transhumanist ideas. That is very common and is still in the sci-fi genre is, cyberpunk edge runners. Except one of the main things about that is it's still about the relationship and the want to be famous, and there's not really that much of the transhumanist identity or transformation that so many that it's really should kind of emphasize. Now, Cyberpunk Edge Runners is a decent anime. It's got good action, good interesting animation, and great characters. People like what's her name, and people like Rebecca, but I'm one of the weird guys and say Kiwi. I like her, but that's not the point. There is these hints of the transhumanism of that world, but it's not the main focus, and so it's not the best parallel for it. Now, there's lots of transhumanism in media, specifically with sci-fi in regards to cyberpunk genre. You see it in Deus Ex, in the original Deus Ex and Deus Ex, the one with Jensen, yeah, the I didn't ask for this guy. Now, the whole thing about that, it delves into the idea of transhumanism. It's a staple with cyberpunk in particular, but some delve into it much deeper than others. I think cyberpunk is naturally a commentary of transhumanism. It is transhumanist by nature. Now, to clarify, transhumanism is not the same as transgender, right? It's not the same. Transhumanism is like I said in an earlier video, an idea of evolution through technology. The symbiosis of nature and machine coming together to create a sort of new being. It is a beautiful thing that it is a beautiful commentary that really does get the brain thinking. And for those who want a bit more of a literary thing when it comes to cyberpunk, I really do recommend reading Neuromancer. And Neuromancer by Gibson, I think his name is. I don't know. But Neuromancer dives into that aspect of transhumanism and cyberpunk dystopia. It's one of the founders of the true founders of cyberpunk. And it goes on. It does these suggestions of what could and couldn't be, and blah blah blah. Now there's AI and like cybernetics and hacking and all that's common stuff that you see in cyberpunk media, yeah. But the one thing that I think is very poignant about the book that really applies to all cyberpunk media is, again, the transhumanistic aspects of AI, memory, and what it ultimately ends up to be about the human condition. Because there's an AI called the Wintermute, and there's this aspects of the main character having his mind and body, his mind altered by cybernetics and a partial unreality. But with Ghost in a Shell, back to Ghost in a Shell, it was for the longest time one of my favorite animes. I suppose because it was generally one of the first that actually got me into it. I did watch Gundam Wing when I was a kid, but it was only like several sparse episodes. But it was actually, it was the Ghost in the Shell film that actually got me into it. I watched a little bit of Standalone Complex, but I completely forgot about it and I never finished it. I'm not sure if I even started on the right place, because it was just airing one day and I watched a little bit of it and I thought it was interesting. I wanted to watch more, but I ended up not being able to. Now, I remember when the Scarlett Johansson film of Ghost in a Shell was coming out, and I was like, no, I'm against it. It's going to be shit. It's going to be horrible. Because this comes from the mind of someone who watched the absolutely terrible film of Dragon Ball Evolution. Now, there is a history of there always being a live-action adaptation, especially by Hollywood or Western studios, that absolutely just fuck the whole thing up, right? They just mess it all up. It's a pattern. It's something that is guaranteed to happen. And I faced the live action film as someone's like, nah, pattern recognition, it's going to be bad because blah blah blah. It didn't help that I saw the trailers and they tried to make her seem really special. Now, one of the main complaints I had with Scarlett Johansson's Ghost in the Shell is that the trailers really tried to sell the fact that, oh, she's unique and she's special, she's different than all the other cyborgs. And I didn't like that, because that's not the point of Ghost in the Shell. That's not transhumanism in general. Transhumanism and Ghost in the Shell is to say that she's not common. No, she is common. She's like everyone else. She, in some cases, it's like, am I just a mass-produced model, even? And it removed a lot of that truly interesting aspects of it. That, like, full cyborg, you know. I think I'm going to be actually rewatch the Ghost in the Shell film and just get another good feel of it, because I want to. Now, it's Ghost in the Shell is also one of the most influential animes on the cyberpunk genre. I would say in some ways more so than Akira, because Akira really isn't cyberpunk. You know? I remember there's this game that I absolutely love. It's an indie game. It's my favorite of all time. I still love to play it even to this day, and it is 14 years old. It reached its 14th birthday like in July. It's an old game and it's a very good game, but at the same time I kind of hesitate to recommend it because it can be a bit janky and the translation's a bit strange, but it's still worth a play if you have the patience. Now the game in question is EYE Divine Cybermancy. Now, there's multiple references to cyberpunk media in general in the book, right? No, in the game. There's references to Philip K. Dick's Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? There's references to Ghost in the Shell. There's references to a lot of cyberpunk stuff and like also Neuromancer and all these things. It's a whole crock pot of stuff. And there's a reference in the second level where you see the spider tank that Kusanagi rips apart, and it's even in the same station area. But that's a little bit of a tangent. Now, I would highly recommend anyone watch Ghost in the Shell themselves, because you will find something there that is very in ways transformative. It will get you to think on more deeper subjects that most other animes, especially like animes for like teenagers, just do not address as well, if that makes sense. It's also somewhat similar in the same vein to Alita Battle Angel, you know, and quite coincidentally, David Cameron was a massive fan of the Ghost in the Shell anime film. Massive fan of it. This is, you know, David Cameron, guy who did Titanic, and guy who did Avatar, and Avatar Way of Water, I think it was called. Now, in the past, a lot of people have said, oh yeah, that would be amazing if he did an adaptation of that. But now, after some of his more crazier things like testosterone is poison, I think a lot of people have cooled down on the idea of him ever doing that. And then even then, it was already adapted into live action by some other studio, and it's just generally a boring disappointment. But again, I can't recommend Ghost in the Shell enough for people who love the cyberpunk like stuff, and they love sci-fi stuff, and they want a sci-fi anime with some extra crunch to it as compared to cyberpunk Edgerunners. Now, I did watch the sequel to it, and it did extend a little bit of the transhumanist ideas, and I would kind of recommend